Hello, we're talking about inherited IRAs and the Secure 2.0 Act's impact on those fortunate enough to inherit an IRA. When this happens, the most important thing to do first is take a step back, take a deep breath, and realize the choices that are in front of you for what to do with this account. Basically, for inheritors, there's three main sort of buckets or groups of people into which everybody will fall. There's spouses, what I call special situations, and then there's everybody else. The vast majority of the Secure 2.0 Act's changes will impact the everybody else part. For spouses and for special situations, there aren't a whole lot of changes. So we're going to go through those other situations, the first two buckets, relatively quickly, and then we're going to talk a lot about the other folks, because that's where a lot of the changes will take effect. So first, looking at spouses. So if you're a spouse, the rules are very simple. You can either take the money from your deceased spouse's IRA and put it into your own account as if it was always yours. It's important to note that spouses are the only people for whom that is an option. Take the money out of the deceased account, put it into yours, and it's as if it was always yours. Another option, and this would be a situation where, imagine if someone died perhaps before RMD age in their 40s or early 50s, and the spouse needed to have the money. Well, it might make more sense to put the money into a beneficiary IRA, because if the money is needed, the money can come out and there are no penalties associated with taking money out of an inherited IRA before 59 and a half. Whereas with an IRA in your own name, there's other implications if you take the money out before those ages. Okay, so for spouses, fairly simple, not a lot of complexity there. Now there's the non-spouse exceptions. These are minors if the inheritor is within 10 years of age of the deceased, or if you're disabled or chronically ill. These get into very, very special situations where there can be a lot of cascading special questions or situations, intricacies, if you will. So if you're in this situation and you inherit an IRA, definitely seek out professional counsel so that you adhere to the rules and take advantage of some of the rules that are available to you. But we're not going to talk a lot about those today, because the lion's share of the changes in the Secure 2.0 Act deal with the non-spouse inheritors who don't fall into one of the special situation buckets that we just described before. Okay, so the biggest thing here for inherited IRA is realize that you're now in the third bucket. Then you have to tell yourself, okay, within 10 years, this account, be it a traditional or a Roth, has to be emptied in the next decade. How you want to do that is up to you, but over the next 10 years, that account value must go all the way down to zero. Okay, so the first sort of decision point or thing to realize is an answer is, had the deceased person already started RMDs because of their age, which it can be dependent on the year they passed away and what age was in effect. For example, this year, 2023, the RMD age is 73 and it's scheduled to go up in succeeding years. So you have to answer the question, did the person start taking RMDs? Okay, then for the year that they passed away, had the RMD already been taken? If the answer to the question is no, then you would take the RMD based on what the deceased person would have taken for that year. Okay, that's an important point. Now, once that happens and you were getting into the successive years, now RMDs can be taken via the inheritor's age, which is a significantly less amount because the RMD is based on your age. So someone who's 70 to 75, 80, their RMD is going to be considerably higher than someone who's perhaps 40 or 50. So the IRS has life expectancy tables. You take the previous year's December 31st account value, divide by the life expectancy divisor, and that becomes your RMD. That's the amount that has to come out every year, regardless of whether or not you want to take the RMD out or not. Now, this is markedly different from how the IRA rules used to be, where the account could be stretched out over a number of years. Now it has to be emptied within 10 years, and that's very important. And there was some confusion in previous iterations of the Secure Act of when did these RMDs were they even required as long as the account was empty by the 10th year? Well, now the IRS has answered those rules, and the guidelines are very clear. At least an RMD has to come out every year when you are taking the funds out of the account. Okay, and that's whether it's a traditional or a Roth. Okay, so that's important to know. But now, once you have this and the account is established in your name, the RMDs has been taken based on the deceased age, now you can invest the funds however you like. Stocks, bonds, whatever, like any IRA, it's your funds to do with what you choose. Then those amounts will have to come out based on the end of year account values, as I explained previously. Okay, so let's look at some situations, some strategies, how you could employ the rules to your benefit. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is the straight line method. Okay, I want to take virtually the same amount out each year between year 1 and year 10. Okay, so this would be, now obviously the investment performance in there is going to impact how much money comes out. However, you're looking to have a very uniform set of money come out over each successive year. Okay, who would this be ideal for? Well, a military person. Your pay is very well defined. You can count on your military pay being there for virtually as long as you like, unless you're encroaching on retirement. So having that IRA money come out in each successive year is going to impact you equally throughout each year. Now, maybe you're on a promotion scale or something like that, where maybe your pay is going to go up. However, the idea here is that your pay is fairly uniform throughout that period of time. Government workers, people who've been long employed in the same job, and you can relatively predict what your income is going to be. The straight line method may make some sense for you. Okay, now you may have other things going on in your life that may be exceptions to that, but for the straight line method, we're looking to just equally space out that income throughout each of the 10 years. Okay, for the second situation is what I'm going to call the maximize deferral method. So let's say, for example, you inherit an IRA of a certain amount of money, and for whatever reason, life's happened to you, and you've not been able to contribute to your employer retirement plan, 401k, TSP, 403b, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, you have not been able to contribute to it. Well, if all else stays the same, if you take $10,000 out of an inherited IRA, you're going to realize that as income, just as if you earned it at your job. So if you take $10,000 from your salary and you defer it into your 401k, well, now you've made your tax situation virtually identical, but now you've taken money out of the inherited IRA and you've gone into the 401k, which has a much longer duration than your inherited IRA does, meaning that you can have that until you're considerably older, whereas the inherited IRA has to be empty within 10 years. So it's basically you're trying to match a dollar for dollar inherited IRA into an employer plan. It's a very good, very efficient way to keep your tax situation the same while also depleting the funds from your inherited IRA. And nothing says you can't do this with method number one, but again, for those who want to try to offset the taxes, that's a strategy that you could look to employ. Okay, now the third one was what I'll call the tax minimization method. Okay, so here we're looking to opportunistically take money out of the inherited IRA because of the rest of the situation of our income. Okay, so let's say for example, your income is very lumpy. Think people who are in commission, sales, or self-employed. Your income is not going to be as uniform as it would be for a military person. So you could have several $100,000 in one year and maybe $50,000 the next, or whatever it may be. Or you may be able to choose when you recognize income because of how your business is structured. Whatever the case, if there are years where your income is going to be either deliberately or forcefully low, well, then now you're going to be in the lower tax brackets. Remember, it's a graduated tax system. Starts at 10% and works upwards to 12, all the way up to 37. So if you're going to be in the lower tax bracket, okay, then it might make more sense in whatever year that is, 1 through 10, to take the RMD at the beginning of the year, see how your income goes for the rest of the year, and then if your income is going to be low towards the end of the year, take a lot of money out of the inherited IRA because it's going to be taxed at a lower rate. And then you could look to fund Roth IRAs, you could fund your own 401k or other retirement plan contributions, things like that, so that what's coming out is taxed at a lower rate. Okay, so that's being opportunistic beyond the RMD to recognize the income at a lower tax rate. Again, that will definitely benefit folks who have very lumpy income or have control over when they can recognize income. All right. The last method I'll discuss here is the Roth IRA. So let's say you inherit a Roth IRA of whatever size from your loved one. So in that situation, you want to keep that money in the tax-free wrapper, Roth wrapper, as long as you can before you recognize or before you have to take the money out. Now here it's important distinction is that when the money comes out, it's going to be tax-free. Okay, so keeping the money within the Roth IRA makes a lot of sense. Now, but again, the same situations apply. So let's say there's an example where or a situation where your income is very low, or for whatever reason you want to fund a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA, pardon me, and for whatever reason the funds are not available from any other source. Well, if you take the money out of the inherited Roth IRA, then you can fund those other things, and now they're going to go from tax-free to tax-free. So that can make a lot of sense in the right situation. But with the Roth IRA in here, obviously you have a lot more flexibility and can think strategically in how you want to employ those funds throughout your own personal financial schematic, if you will. Okay, so those are just some very, very simple, not overly complex ways that you can look to use an inherited IRA if you're fortunate enough to actually inherit one. Okay, so in conclusion, we talked about three different situations: spouses, exceptions, and then everybody else. Most of what we talked about today applies to everybody else because the spouses and the special exceptions are either easy or somewhat rare, and most of the people are going to be to whom the Security 2.0 Act's rule apply are folks who are going to be in that other non-spouse bucket. And then we talked about some different situations where depending on how old the person was who is deceased, and then some situations you can use to employ, some tactics you can use to employ your own inherited IRA. All right, thank you very much for the time.